Mr. Rustin, what is the schedule for Boycott Day?
Well, the freedom schools, where the children will be attending rather than the public schools, will begin at 7 in the morning. The children will come any time after that. They will leave those freedom schools at 5. They will have a regular lunch period at 12, as they do normally. In the meantime, there will be picketing of all of the schools that we can get people to, with special concentration on the schools which we call the ghetto schools.
Are some of these schools on this map?
Yes, in fact, most of these ones marked with red are the most concentrated schools, the X schools, and these in the black are where the percentage of Negroes and Puerto Ricans are more than 50%.
How effective will this boycott be on these schools?
Well, I think the boycott is going to be very effective on these schools. I think it will be very good on the high schools also.
Reverend Galamison, you tell me why the committee has chosen this particular measure. Is this the most effective one at your disposal?
We feel so. We feel that we've exhausted every possibility in terms of discussion, in terms of sitting around the table. We started out last August talking with Dr. Gross. We rejected in pencil form a plan that ultimately came out as the interim report. We had at least 4 or 5 subsequent meetings based on our rejection of that report, and then the report came out anyway as of December. This report, which came out yesterday, doesn't represent much of an advance over that, and it seems to me that if civilized people sit around the table and they make certain agreements and commitments and do not keep them, then there's nothing for the aggrieved people to do except to resort to some other kind of tactic. Thusly, we have elected to boycott.
And what are your hopes as far as the results of this boycott?
Our hope is that the Board of Education will decide to come up with a really comprehensive plan in depth for citywide school desegregation and with a reasonable timetable. If this does not happen, we will repeat the boycott again during February or March, very soon.
Will it ever be lasting more than one day?
Probably so. If we have to go on with this kind of thing through April, when the World Fair opens, we anticipate the possibility of having a protracted boycott during which we will keep children out of school indefinitely.
And perhaps if this fails, what next from here?
It will not fail.
Thank you very much, Reverend. Mr. Rustin. Mr. Rustin, what is the timetable for Boycott Day? And what are some of these schools involved?